Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Dasakam 88. Santanagopalopakyanam. Stanza 1. Pragevacharya hriti nishamanaya sviya shatsunuviksham kankshantya maturuktya suthala bhuvi bhalim prapyate narchitastvam धातुशापाधिरन्यान् वितकशिपु भवान् शौरिजान् कंसभग्नान् आनीयैनान् प्रदर्श्य स्वपदमनयताः पूर्वपुत्रान् मरीचेः. So this Dasakam is about Santanagopalopakyanam. So in this Dasakam, on multiple instances, Krishna is actually able to get the children back to their parents. So there is a wide belief that those couple who are childless will be blessed with children if they actually recite this Dasakam. There is also a temple in Tripunithara in Kochi called Sri Purnatrayesha Temple. So in this Purnatrayesha temple, the deity is Lord Vishnu, who is actually in the form of Santanagopala Murti. So coming back to the stanza 1, so long time back, Devaki had heard about how Lord Krishna got back the sons of his teacher, Sandipani, when the child had disappeared. And so with that, Devaki was also long earning that she's been waiting to see her sons, the 6 children, right, who had actually died at the hand of Kamsa. She's been wanting to see them. So Devaki then approaches Krishna and say, Kankshantya Vikshyam, I'm really desiring to see Swiya Shatsunu, my own 6 sons. So to be able to fulfill his mother's desire, Krishna then goes to Suthala Bhuvi Bhalim. So he goes to the land of Suthala to meet Mahabali, which is where the 6 children are. So if you remember from the 31st Dasakam, the last stanza, it says, Darpochitye vihitamakilam daitya siddhosi punyaihi lokaste stotridiva vijahi vasavatvam chapaschat, where Mahabali is actually sent to the region of Sutala to be able to rule that and and then to make it like heaven. So Krishna then goes to Sutala Loka to meet Mahabali, where he's then welcomed by Mahabali and Thomarchitaha. So he then Mahabali honors Krishna, and from there Krishna brings back the 6 children to show them to Devaki and Vasudeva. And Bhattatripat says here, but these 6 children are Purva Putran Marichehe, were actually formerly the sons of Marichi, Dhatuh Shapat. So because of a curse that Brahma had actually given, Hiranyan Vitakashipu, they were actually born into the clan of Hiranyakashipu. So if you remember that story where Marichi had fathered 6 sons with Urna, and they were actually demigods, but they laughed at Brahma, and so they actually got a curse, because of which they were born to Kalanemi, who was the son of Hiranyakashipu. These 6 children were born to Kalanemi, and then that's how the whole Kamsa episode actually happens. And eventually they are killed by Bhagnan Kamsaha. They're eventually killed by Kamsa. So Krishna brings those 6 children to Devaki and Vasudeva, shows it to them, and eventually frees them from the misery because the curse is now lifted, and they go back to Krishna's abode. So Anayataha Swapadam. So they go back to your abode, which is the Vaikuntha Loka. Stanza 2. Shrutadeva ite shrutam dvijendram bahulashvam nripatim cha bhakti purnam yugapatvam anugrahitu kamo mitilam prapita tapasai sametah. So now on to the next story here. So Dvijendram is referring to, like we had discussed earlier, a Dvija refers to Brahmin because one who's twice born. Dvija Indram is one who's a great Brahmin or a king of Brahmins or a head of Brahmins. So there was a Brahmin by name Shrutadeva, and the meaning of the word Shrutadeva means one who has heard Vedas well, Shruti, and so has become a Devan. So which really means that he is a great Brahmin who's been performing his duties, and he's very devoted person. At the same time, there was also Bahulashwam. There was a person by name Bahulashwa, and he was a Nripatim. So he was the head of kings. So he was a king who was a very great king, and he was a very devoted person, even though he was a king. So Krishna then went to Prapita Mithilam. So Krishna went to Mithila because both of them were his great devotees, and Krishna went there to actually bless him. Now, where is Mithila? Mithila is in Nepal. So Krishna then went there not alone, but Sametaha Thapasaihi. He actually went with some rishis as well. And who were these rishis? Although it's not mentioned in Narayaniyam here as to who they are, he went with Naradar, Markandeyer, Atri, and Shukar. So Narada has been there through all the periods. He's always there. Markandeya is also a Chiranjeevi, so he's also there through multiple of these yugams. And Atri has been there from the time of Ramayana. And Shuka Brahman, we all know he was there at that time because he was the one who said Bhagavatam to Parikshit. So Krishna then goes with all of these ascetics to go and bless Shrutadeva and Bahulashva in Mithila. Stanza 3. गच्छन् द्विमूर्तिरुभयोर्युगपन्निकेतम् एकेन भूरि विभवैर्विहितोपचारः अन्येन तद्दिनभृतैश्च फलौदनाद्यैः तुल्यं प्रसेदित ददात च मुक्तिमाभ्याम्. So now Krishna enters Mithila to bless Shrutadevar and Bahulashwar. Instead of going to one person's house first by giving them a priority, and because both of them are equally important, the way Krishna went is he went in similar forms to both their houses at the same time. So that's where here Bhattacharya says, Gachan Dvimurti. You went in two similar forms, exactly the same forms, Ubayoho Yugapat, to both of their houses at the same time, Niketam, to their houses at the same time. And both of them honor Krishna by welcoming him there. One of them, Ekena, the first one, King Bahulashwar, who was again, because he was a rich king, he had arranged a great feast for Krishna. So Bhuri Vibhavaihi, so variety of rich offerings. So he had a lot of items for Krishna to eat because he wanted to kind of show his devotion that way. However, the Brahmin Shrutadevar just offered Krishna whatever phala odena adyahi, whatever rice and fruits he had actually obtained Dina, that day, Britaischa, whatever he had obtained as just alms, from his begging, whatever he had obtained that day, he just offered that to Krishna. And we saw in Kuchelopakyanam as well, where Krishna said, when Krishna asked Kuchela, he said, "Oh Brahmana, what have you brought for me?" And he said, "I regard even the smallest gift offered to me by my devotee in pure love as higher than any great offerings a non-devotee might give me." However, and it doesn't matter whether you give me a leaf or a flower, a fruit or water, anything which is offered with devotion, that actually brings happiness to my heart. So here really Bhattacharya is calling this out because there's no reason for him to say Krishna went there, what did Krishna eat? The main idea he's trying to communicate here is one of them offered Krishna a lot of items because he could afford to offer it. The other person offered Krishna whatever alms he had got that day because that's what he could afford to offer. And because doesn't matter what each one offered, Krishna was tulyam prasidita. He was equally pleased with both Shrutadevar and Bahulashwar, and Mukti Mabhyam Dhadata, and he gave both of them liberation equally because they both were doing it with devotion. Stanza 4. Bhuyo tadvaravatya dvijatanayamritim tatpralapanapetvam ko va dhaivam nirundyaditi kila katayan vishwabodhapyasodha jishnor vinetum त्वयि मनुजधिया कुंठितां चास्य बुद्धिं तत्त्वारूढां विधातुं परमतमपद प्रेक्षणे नेति मन्ये. So Krishna then finishes all that. He comes back to Dwaraka. So now in Dwaraka, what is happening here is Bhattacharya says, Krishna, you are a Vishwa Voda. So you are a person who can actually support the whole world, the whole earth you are able to carry. And by support doesn't mean physically lift. You are able to take care of every person who is on earth and take care of all the things they need. However, Asoda, you did not support in this case. In Dwaraka, at the time when Krishna was ruling, and everything was going fine, the region was prosperous. However, there was one Brahmin, Dvija, Thanayamritim. So all the children who were actually being born to him and his wife, they were actually dying. or after the birth they die. In some cases they say that the children disappeared, but we don't know what it is. Maybe the children just died here. So this now started becoming a major news in the region. And every time when this Brahmin approached Krishna, Krishna kept dispersing him, telling, Kova Daivam Nirundyat. Who indeed can resist fate? It's all happening because of the destiny, and there is nothing much you can actually do about it. So when this was happening, and Arjuna, who was now at the height of feeling powerful because they have already won the Mahabharata war, and he was, of course, declared as the best warrior, and then he was at the height of his strength. And he had over time forgotten all the great things that Krishna had done. And he was beginning to think, Tvai Dhiya Manuja. And he started thinking of Krishna as just a mere human being. This is the Krishna I know, he had helped me, but this is the Krishna who was a cowherd. He's now a king, and he's just like any other human being, and he's just a regular, powerful person like any other human being. So Bhattadripad is saying here, you were behaving like this Krishna, and you drove the next set of events which are actually going to be happening only to curb Arjuna's pride. So Vinetum Jishnoho Garvam, Jishnoho referring to Arjuna here, to completely take away Arjuna's pride, and Kuntitam cha Asya Buddhim, and his intellect, which had actually become blunt or which had become dumb to some extent. You wanted to kind of completely eliminate, and Vidatum Tattvarodam, and to actually show him, to make him understand the higher truth. Even though Krishna had told the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna a long time back, it looks like it had still got lost. And so to kind of bring things back to normalcy, Krishna is then decided that this is the time right now to take him to Parama Thamapadam, to actually show him the supreme abode. So here Parama already refers to something which is good, and Thama is referring to the best in a superlative degree. So to show him the best of the best places, so the supreme abode, to show him that Krishna is, so all these events are beginning to actually happen. Iti manye, thus I am believing. That's what Bhattadripad says. He says all these things are happening for this reason. Stanza 5. Nashta ashtasya putraha punarapi tavatu pekshaya kashtavadaha spashto jato jananam atatadavasare dwarakaamapapartaha maitriya tatroshitosau navamasutamritau vipravarya prarodham shrutva chakre pradignyam anupahruta sutah sannivekshe krishanum. So time passes, and at one point, Nashta Ashtasya Putraha, the Brahmin has now lost 8 children, and Krishna was still not doing anything. And so the word spreads around Dwaraka, and everyone is starting to discuss how Upekshya Kashtavadaha. So everybody is beginning to discuss how all of this is Krishna is being indifferent to everything that is actually happening, and that is bringing down Krishna's reputation. And they were all being unclear why Krishna as a king is not doing anything about it. And even the public started Janana Mata. Even they, in general, they started doubting about Krishna's abilities. So Krishna did so much for the Mahabharata war, but in this case, he was not doing anything. However, Tad Avasare. So at that time, so here avasaram doesn't mean like the emergency like in Tamil. In Sanskrit, avasare means at that particular time. Parthaha apa Dwaraka. So Arjuna happened to come to Dwaraka to spend some time with Krishna, because Arjuna and Krishna were great friends, and also Arjuna married Subhadra, who's Krishna's cousin, so he's technically Krishna's brother-in-law as well. So at the time when they were sitting, the Brahmana is now coming crying again. Vipravarya prarodham, this Brahmana is crying again. And Arjuna goes and inquires, and he comes to know that, he comes to know more about the story, and that the 9th son also has died. Shrutva Navama Sutamritau, hearing that the 9th son of the Brahmana also has died. So because of his pride, Arjuna feels that, this is unacceptable. And if Krishna is not able to go and protect this Brahmana, I can actually do it. And he feels he's so powerful, he can actually prevent the god of death from entering or coming in, and he can go and protect the Brahmana's next child. So he makes a pratignya. So he makes a promise that Anupahrita Sutaha, that in case I cannot actually go and bring back your child, the next son that is actually born to you, if I'm not able to go either save or prevent that person from getting taken, or in case that person is taken, then to be able to go and bring that person back, sannivekshe krishanum, then I will actually give my life by jumping into the fire. So with this, Arjuna decides and he takes up this promise in front of all the people at Dwaraka, and he's committed to now saving this Brahmana's children. Stanza 6. मानीसत्वामपृष्ट्वा द्विजनिलयगतो बाणजालैर्महास्त्रैः रुन्धानः सूतिगेहं पुनरपि सहसा दृष्टनष्टे कुमारे याम्यामैन्द्रीं तथान्याः सुरवरनगरी विद्यया साध्यसद्यो मोघोद्योगः पतिष्यन् हुतभुजि भवता सस्मितं वारितोऽभूत्. So when the 10th child is now about to be born, Mani, that proud Arjuna, he who always used to be consulting Krishna at every step in the past. However, this time, Tvam Aprishtva, he did not ask you, O Krishna. And Bhattripad is saying this because this is a lesson for everyone here, right? Because when things don't go well, we all pray to God and we all ask for help and we completely surrender and say that, hey, I cannot do this. I really need God's blessings and everybody's help. But when we are feeling good, strong, powerful, and we feel that we can accomplish something, then we don't go and pray to God because we think all of this is possible because of our abilities, because of our capabilities. And that's how the pride and the ego kicks in. So that's exactly what is happening. So Arjuna is, in this instance, he's going without asking Krishna, Gataha Dvijanelaya. So he goes to this Brahmin's house because that 10th child is going to be born. So Suti Geham, which is the labor room where the Brahmana's wife is, Arjuna then blocks it or covers it with Bana Jalaihi Maha Astrehi. So not just with arrows, but also any divine missiles and all the weapons that Arjuna has, he then creates a protective shield around the labor room. Then the child is born, and suddenly Kumare Drishtanashte, the child then suddenly vanishes or disappeared right in front of the eyes. So Drishtanashte, right in front of the eyes, the child now disappears or the child dies. And so now the Brahmin is now condemning Arjuna by saying, hey, look, Krishna or Balarama or nobody could help me here. And you then, Arjuna, came in and you were so proud that you said you could actually help me here. I don't know how that was possible. But look what happened, right? You still were not able to help. So Arjuna now is really, beaten down with this. So, but being a very powerful person, Vidyaya Asadhya, because of the yogic powers that Arjuna has, he then goes around. He first goes to Yam. He first goes to the abode of Yama to see if the child is there. He doesn't find it there. Then he goes to Aindrin. He goes to Indra's abode to see if the child is there. He cannot find the child there. And Tatanyaha Suravara Nagari. So he goes to all the other gods' houses also. So he takes a tour, and he doesn't find this child or the previous 9 children in any of those houses. So eventually Arjuna now gives up. And once he gives up, he then says, you know what? All the effort I have actually taken has not yielded any fruits. So as promised, as I have taken the pratignya, Patishin Hutabhuji. So he is now about to jump into the fire. So right when Arjuna is about to jump into the fire, Krishna comes and then stops him. And then Bhavata Sasmitam. And Krishna is then doing this in a very smiling manner. Krishna is just smiling at Arjuna and saying, you know what? Don't jump into the fire now. Let me actually help you here. So you come with me and I will show you where the sons of the Brahmin are. And please do not despise yourself by jumping into the fire and killing yourself. So with this, Krishna then takes Arjuna now. Stanza 7. Sardham tena pratinchim dishamati javinasyandanenaabhiyato loka lokam vyatitaha thimira bharamato chakradhamna nirundan chakram shuklishta drishtim sthitamata vijayam pashyeti varam pare tvam pradadarshaha kimapi hi tamasam dura dhuram padam te. So Krishna now decides to step and take over. So with Arjuna, Krishna then goes in the west direction. So he goes in Pratichin Disham. He goes in the west direction with a very fast chariot. Adi Javina Syandanena. Or maybe it is kind of a spaceship because they are actually flying now over space. And in the Hindu mythology, in Bhagavatam, it says Loka Loka is considered like an enormous range of mountains or a big space of land, which is believed to be about 10,000 yojanas, which is about 80,000 miles in breadth and way higher as well. And it means Loka Aloka. So it means it's a name which is a world and no world. So it is kind of like a dividing line in the cosmography. It's a dividing line between the known world, which is the universe, and the dark void of nothingness, which is really no world. That's why it is Loka Aloka, and when you join it together, it's Loka Loka. So it's kind of like a dividing line. So they pass through Vyatitaha Loka Lokam. So they cross the Loka Loka region. And once they cross the Loka Loka region, then it is Atha Thimira Baram. Then it is intense darkness because it's an empty void space of nothing. And when there's absolutely nothing there, then Krishna then uses his Chakradhamna. He then lets his discus go. And this discus is not the rays which are actually coming out of that. He's actually providing light. And then Krishna and Arjuna continue to move forward. So when Arjuna is Sthitamata Vijayam, so when he's standing there and he's observing what's happening, Krishna is saying, Pashya, Pashya iti. He says, look here, look here. And beyond the Tamasam Dhura Duram, beyond the region of darkness or the Tamas Guna, is the region where there's intense light. So which is really Padam The. It is your abode. So they are now beginning to see this all pervasive, expanding, transcendental light. So the Brahma Jyoti is now visible, and they are actually approaching the region of Vaikunta, where they are actually seeing this light, and they are approaching your abode, O Krishna. Stanza 8. Tatrasinam bhujanghadipashayana divyabhushayudhadhihi avitam pitachelam pratinavajalada syamalam srimadangam murtinamishitaram paramihatisrunam ekamartam shrutinam tvameva tvam paratman priyasakasahito nemita kshema rupam. So once they approach that region, what do they see? So there they see seated on the bed surface, Shayana Thale, as if in a reclining posture, Bhujanga Adipa. So Bhujanga is referring to snake, Adipa is referring to king. So Bhujanga Adipa is somebody who is the king of snake, which is Adishesha. So lying on Adishesha with Divya Bhusha Ayudaihi, with all the divine attire, which is Pita Chelam, which is a yellow color garment. Pratinava Jalada Syamalam. So the color of the body is blue, like the fresh rain bearing clouds. Sri Madangam, along with Lakshmi Devi. The supreme ruler, Parama Ishitaram, the supreme ruler, who is Tisrunam Murtinam, so who is actually the combination of the Trinity, all of which them are personified in one person, and Ekam Artham Shrutinam. So Shruti here is referring to the Vedas. So the sole subject of the Vedas, or the sole motive of the Vedas, is to understand the Lord. So the one who is the Trinity personified, the one who is the sole subject of the Vedas, so that supreme being Paramatman, who is actually Tvam Eva. So Bhattacharya is saying that person is none other than you only, O Krishna. So you, along with Priyasaka, along with your dear friend Arjuna, Nemita Kshema Rupam. You are now bowing, or you're prostrating, you're doing namaskaram to Kshema Rupam, the moksha personified in a visual form, which is in the form of Sri Mahavishnu. So even in Vishnu Sahasranamam, if you remember, Bhishma also says, Devaki Nandana Srishtedi Shaktihi. So he says this whole, as he's describing in the Dhyanam, when he's describing Mahavishnu, he says this Vishnu is, this God is none other than the Devaki Nandanaha. He's none other than the son of Devaki, which is Lord Krishna. So essentially the point here is Krishna and Vishnu, they are actually the same person, because it's Vishnu has come in the form of Krishna in this avataram, and that's what Bhattacharya is saying as well. Stanza 9. Yuva mameva द्वावधिक विवृतान्तर्हिततया विभिन्नौ संद्रष्टुं स्वयमहमहार्षं द्विजसुतान् नयेतं द्रागेथानिति खलु वितीर्णान् पुनरमूने द्विजा यादायादाः प्रणुतमहिमा पाण्डुजनुषा. So now let's see what Vishnu is telling. So Vishnu is telling to Krishna, who's standing in there, and to Arjuna, Yuvam, the two of you, Mameva, it is me alone who is actually in the two of you, in Dvav, in your forms. But there is one difference. Vibhinna, there is one difference which is actually there between the two of you. One of them, Adhika Vivrita. In one of them, I am actually well manifested. So the divinity is actually potent in one of them, which is in Krishna. However, the other one, Antarhitataya, is, however, it is less potent, it is latent. The divinity is latent in the other person because it is obstructed by the Maya. So because of that, that's the only difference between you both. Otherwise, you both are me alone. And Vishnu then goes on to say that I brought the sons of Brahmin over here because I had a desire to see the two of you come here together. The two of you are really my expansions who have actually descended into earth to protect Dharma. So that's why I wanted to see both of you come here together. So take them soon, nayetam drag etaniti. So please take them soon, the Brahmanas children. And even though your desires for taking birth on earth is actually fulfilled, you should still be continue to engage in upholding the dharma for the sake of the common man. And with that, Vishnu then gives them, the children are actually handed back now, and really the Vishnu and Krishna give the children to Arjuna, so that Arjuna can actually, so that he had taken the promise, so he wanted to make sure Arjuna is able to give the children back to the Brahmin. And having given that, Arjuna takes it and adaha dvijaya, so he goes and gives the children to the Brahmin. And these children were in the same bodies and the same age as they were when they had actually lost, the Brahmin had lost them. So now once Arjun goes and gives it to the Brahmin now has 10 children. So with that, Arjuna is now completely realizes the truth here, and Pandu Janusha, Arjuna here, Mahima Pranuta, and then he sings your glory, O Krishna, because he now realizes that you and Mahavishnu are the same, and he was completely mistaken. Although Krishna had shown to Arjuna in the past, he had missed it, and now he realizes it again. Stanza 10. Evam nana viharaiर्जगदभिरमयन् वृष्णिवंशं प्रपुष्णन् ईजानो यज्ञभेदैः अतुलविहृतिभिः प्रीणयन् नेत्राः भूभारक्षेपदम्भात् पदकमलजुषा मोक्षणायावतीर्णः पूर्णं ब्रह्मैव साक्षात् यदुषु मनुजता रूषितस्त्वं व्यलासीः. So Krishna, in this manner, Nana Viharaihi, by various sportive activities that you did, which is like dancing on Kalya, lifting Govardhana, protecting Draupadi, helping with the Mahabharata war, making Gita available to everybody. So various activities. Abhiramayan Jagat, you delighted the entire world. And you also, Vrishni Vamsham Prapushnan, you also nurtured the Vrishni clan. And over a period of your lifetime, Yajna Bedaihi, you performed many sacrifices, many yajnas, and in addition to that, you also, for all the wives that you actually have, Atula Vihritibihi, you also took care of them, and by pleasing them, Prinayan Netraha. So here Bhattacharya is comparing the wives who have eyes who are like deer, who's like a gazelle. So he's comparing them. So to all those wives also you take care of them. And you did all of this only in the context of Bhubara Kshepadambat, in the context of a pretext of eliminating the earth of its burden. So if you remember in 37th Dasakam, Krishna says to Brahma, when Brahma goes there because the earth is burdened, he says, Jane Deen Dashamaham Divishadam Bhumaischa Bhimain Ripaihi Tatchepaya Bhavami Yadavakule Soham Samagratmana So he says, I know the suffering which is actually caused by to the gods and the earth by all these cruel kings. And to eliminate all of the removal of all the sufferings, I shall take birth in the Yadava clan as a complete incarnation. So all of that has been taken care of, and you did this to eliminate the burden that is causing in the earth. And everybody who was devoted to your feet, Padakamala, who was devoted to that, Mokshanaya, you actually gave them liberation. So this is one of the special avatarams where multiple people actually got liberated. So Purnam Brahma Eva. So you are that infinite Brahman itself, Avatirnaha, who has now taken, who has taken incarnated, Sakshad Yadushu, in a material form, in a human form, Manujata Rushitaha. So you took birth in a material form, in a human form, in the Yadava clan, so that people can actually relate to you, can visualize you, and in such a manner, Tum Vyalasihi, you shone very well in such a manner with all your activities and for giving moksham to a lot of people. Stanza 11. प्राहेण द्वारवत्याम् अवृतदयितदा नारदस्त्वद्रसार्द्रः तस्माल्लेभे कदाचित् खलु सुकृतनिधिस्त्वत्पिता तत्त्वबोधं भक्तानामग्रह्यायी स च खलु मतिमान् उद्धवस्त्वत्त एव प्राप्तो विज्ञानसारं सकिलजनहिता याधुनास्ते भदर्याम्. So Lord, later on in those days, so Narada Muni also stayed in Dwaraka, Prayena Dwaravatyam, stayed there for a long time, O Lord, and he was completely engrossed in your worship. And your father, who really deserved it, he also, Narada Muni, also taught him a lot of spiritual insight. And your father attained illumination from him, Narada Muni, who is one of the foremost of your devotees. In addition to that, Matiman Uddavaha, the wise Uddava, who was also a huge devotee of yours, also attained Praptaha Vijnanasaram. He also attained the essence of spiritual knowledge, Tvatta Eva, from you directly, O Lord. And now for Janahitaya, for the benefit of people, Aduna Aste Bhadaryam. Uddava is still supposed to be residing in Badarikashrama for the benefit of this world. Stanza 12. सोऽयं कृष्णावतारो जयति तव विभो यत्र सौहार्दभीदे स्नेहद्वेषानुरागप्रभृतिभिरतुलैः आश्रमैर्योगभेदैः आर्तिं तीर्त्वा समस्ताम् अमृतपदमगुः सर्वतः सर्वलोकाः स त्वं विश्वार्तिशान्त्यै पवनपुरपथे भक्तिपूर्त्यै च भूयाः स त्वं विश्वार्तिशान्त्यै पवनपुरपते भक्तिपूर्त्यै च भूयाः स त्वं विश्वार्तिशान्त्यै पवनपुरपते भक्तिपूर्त्यै च भूयाः. So this is the last stanza of Krishna Avataram. So, O Vibho, O Lord, O Infinite Lord, Soyam Krishna Avataraha. So this Krishna avataram of yours. So Vishnu has taken multiple avatarams. We only know the 9 which people talk about. And even amongst all these famous or the top 9 avatarams, this specific Krishna avataram of yours, Jayati, is the best. It excels compared to every other avataram, because I think we have discussed in the past, some of them are Leela avataram, where the Lord just comes to perform one action or a Leela, like whether it be Vamana avataram or Matsya avataram, Kurma avataram. And only the Rama avataram and Krishna avataram are Purna avatarams, where he's there for the full period. And even in that, Krishna avataram is the one where he's come with the full potent of the Lord. So Jayati, that's why it says Krishnasya Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the Lord himself. So this avataram excels, whereby through Sauharda, with friendship, Bhiti, through fear, Sneha, through love, Dvesha, through hatred, Anuraga, attachment, Prakritibihi, and several other means, Sarvataha Sarvalokaha, everywhere, all the people were able to overcome all their sorrows, Atulaihi ashramaihi. Shramam is to put effort. Ashramaihi is in a very effortless manner. In a very effortless manner, they were able to overcome all the sorrows. And yoga bhedehi, they were able to attain union with you, spiritual union with you, and Amrita Padam, and they actually reached a liberated state. So the Pandavas got the liberation because of friendship with Krishna. Kamsa through fear, because Kamsa was always afraid of Krishna, fearing Krishna all the way from Kalanemi's period. Shishupala hated Krishna, so Shishupala got his liberation through that. Nanda, Vasudeva, Yashoda, all of them, and Devaki, they all got liberated through love. And of course, Gopika through the attachment. So all of these people through different modalities, they actually attained union with you in their own unique ways. That's why Bhattacharya is saying very clearly here, Atulaihi Ashramaihi. Each of this was very unique. So they didn't try to replicate the other person in their own unique way, in an effortless way, what makes sense to them. They were able to attain it. And so this Krishna Avataram is indeed very unique. So this Krishna Avataram in Narayaneeyam, which started in Dasakam 37, 38. 38 was the birth, and 37 was where Krishna said, I will come, I'll take an avataram. It comes to end in this Dasakam 88, the 12th stanza here. So all the way from, if you recall it, from helping Vasudeva get to Gokulam, the salvation of Putana, revealing the cosmic form to Yashoda, the redemption of Nalakubara and Manigriva, who were born as trees, and when Krishna was tied to the mortar by Yashoda, he went and liberated them. Then slaying of multiple asuras when he was small, so Vatasura, Bhakasura, Aghasura, who was in the python form. Then when Brahma took all the calves and the Gopa boys away, he then taught Brahma a lesson about it. Kali and Arthanam, holding the Govardhana mountain and then protecting the Gopikas from the incessant rain that was triggered by Indra. The Rasa Krida with the Gopikas. Then the slaying of Kamsa, wedding with Rukmani, marriage with Satyabhama, Jambavati. Then slaying of Narakasura and rescuing the 16,100 women from him. Then slaying Salva, and then teaching a lesson to Poundraka Vasudeva, helping Kuchela out, who was one of his devotee. And in this Dasakam itself, he liberated the Brahmin and the king at the beginning, and then he also helped the Brahmin get his children back. And with this, finally, Bhattacharya completes Krishna Avataram in this Dasakam. So he says, Pavana Purapate, O Lord of Guruvayur, Satwam, that you who has done all these things, right? And there are several more counts. I just kind of said a few things here. So you've done all of these things for Vishwarti Shantiye, for the complete removal of the sorrow of the entire world. Also, Bhakti Purthyai cha Bhuyaha. So give me the ability to attain full devotion. So you should be careful here that Bhattacharya in this chapter, he's not telling eliminate my diseases, because he says that in every chapter. So here he asks for two things: Vishwarti Shanti, for the removal of sorrow for the entire world, as well as because in Hindu religion, Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. So keep everybody happy, not just me. So Sarvam Vishwarti Shanti, and also Bhakti Purti. So not eliminate diseases, give me the ability to attain full devotion to you. So with that, Bhattacharya ends Dasakam 88. श्रीकृष्णाय परब्रह्मणे नमः।